The banister was cold against my palm as I clutched it tighter, my breath sharp in my throat. My father's shadow towered above me on the landing, his face twisted with rage. He shoved the stack of loan papers against my chest so hard the edge sliced my skin through my shirt. "Sign it," he growled, his spit flying onto my cheek. "You're nothing but a vessel for my signature, do you understand? Useless without us." "I told you I can't," I whispered, one hand pressed instinctively over the curve of my belly. My baby had become my shield, my reason to fight back, but standing there I felt smaller than ever. "It's not my debt. I won't put my name on it." Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. From the living room, my mother's laugh rang out like a bell, sharp and cruel. "Oh, Harold," she called, not even looking away from her magazine. "Don't waste your breath. She's too stupid to understand what loyalty to family means. That child she's carrying, worth less than dirt." Something in me cracked, but before I could answer, my father's elbow smashed into my collarbone, sending a sickening jolt down my body. I stumbled backward, my legs scrambling for footing, the staircase yawning behind me like a trap. "You think that baby will save you?" Dad sneered, his boot lifting and pressing into my stomach just enough to make me gasp. "It won't. Nothing will. Sign, or you'll learn what gravity feels like." I gripped the papers and shoved them back at him, shaking my head with a quiet no. His eyes narrowed, that cold glimmer I knew too well, and then he kicked. His foot slammed into my ribs from the side, launching me backward. My scream caught in my throat as I tumbled down step after step, each impact tearing fire through my body. I hit the floor hard, the world spinning, my ears ringing with my mother's voice. "That's what she gets for pretending she's better than the ones feeding her," Mom jeered, her laughter slicing through my panic. Lying broken at the bottom, I curled my arms around my belly, terrified I wouldn't feel movement. A sharp pain knifed through my side, but then, thank God, I felt it. The faintest flutter. My baby was still alive. My father descended slowly, boots echoing against the steps. He crouched beside me, his shadow swallowing me whole. "You'll sign tomorrow," he hissed, plucking the crumpled papers from the floor. "Or I'll make sure there is nothing left inside you worth protecting." I lay there shaking, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, his words searing into me. That night, as I dragged myself into my room, every muscle screaming, I realized something. This wasn't just about debt papers. This was about control, ownership, and their twisted joy in destroying me. And for the first time, as I pressed my hands against my belly and whispered promises to my unborn child, I swore that if I survived this, they would learn what it meant to lose everything. The days after the fall blurred into a haze of pain and whispers. I woke up in a hospital bed, pale and weak, with the sound of monitors beeping steadily around me. My first instinct wasn't to look at the machines or the IV in my arm. It was to press my hand against my belly. Relief washed over me when I felt a tiny flutter inside. My baby was still alive. Tears filled my eyes, not from the bruises spreading across my body, but from the fragile strength inside me, the one life they couldn't break. The door swung open, and in came my mother, not with flowers or a blanket, but with her usual sneer. She tossed her purse onto the chair and looked at me like I was an inconvenience. "You're dramatic," she said flatly, falling downstairs making a scene. "The doctors think you tripped." "Keep it that way. No one needs to know you're nothing but careless." I bit my tongue. I wanted to scream the truth, but I knew how fast it would be twisted back on me. Mom leaned closer, her perfume choking me. "Your father's furious. The loan still needs your signature. You'll sign it the minute you get home. Don't think being pregnant buys you pity. That baby won't save you. If anything, it makes you weaker, and weakness doesn't survive in this house." Her words cut deeper than the bruises. I turned my face to the wall, silent, because silence was my only shield. 2 days later, Dad arrived. His boots echoed on the tile, his posture sharp and stiff like he owned the hospital itself. He pulled up a chair, sat across from me, and placed the loan papers on my lap. "I'll say this once more," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Sign. Or next time, you won't be walking out alive, and that little parasite won't either." I forced myself to meet his gaze, though my heart thundered in my chest. "You almost killed us already," I whispered. "And you laughed." He leaned back, smirking. "You should thank me. It taught you a lesson. Stop thinking you have choices. Trash doesn't make choices. Trash obeys." The word trash echoed in my head, the same label they'd branded me with my entire life. And yet, as he spoke, something shifted inside me. I realized that while they saw me as worthless, I held the one thing they could never control: my will. When I returned home, the walls of that house felt smaller, darker, more suffocating. They watched me constantly, every step to the kitchen, every time I sat down to rest, every moment I placed my hand on my belly. Mom would scoff. "Look at her, already acting like she's some kind of mother, as if she'll raise anything worth keeping alive." Dad grew restless. Bills piled on the counter, red envelopes screaming for payment. He paced the living room, barking orders, slamming fists against the table. And every night, he slid those loan papers under my door like a threat tucked between sheets of silence. But I didn't sign. Not once. I started planning in the quiet hours of night when their laughter finally died down. I kept a notebook hidden beneath my mattress, scribbling names, numbers, every detail I overheard when Dad shouted at the creditors on the phone. I pieced together the size of his debts, the lies he had told, the desperate tricks he was playing to hold onto his image of power. At the same time, I began to build my escape. I reached out secretly to a woman I worked with part-time before the pregnancy, someone kind who always asked if I was okay. Her name was Karen. She didn't know the full story, but she saw enough bruises to guess. I whispered into the payphone at the corner store when I could sneak out, asking her about rentals, about shelters, about anything that would get me away before the baby came. The pregnancy became their weapon and my shield. My mother would mock me in front of neighbors. "She can't even carry herself without whining. What makes you think she'll carry a child?" But in those moments, I smiled inside, because every cruel word pushed me closer to my plan. One night, while I lay awake listening to the thud of my father's boots pacing the hallway, I whispered to my unborn child, "They think I'm weak, but you and me will make them choke on that laughter." It wasn't just about escaping anymore. It wasn't even about survival. It was about turning their own obsession, their money, their control, their pride into the very thing that destroyed them. The bruises on my ribs healed into yellow shadows, but the fire in my chest never dimmed. I began to gather proof. Copies of loan letters stuffed in trash bins, receipts left behind on the table, overheard names of loan sharks who were beginning to lose patience. I built a secret arsenal of knowledge, waiting for the moment to strike. And the moment came faster than I expected. One morning, Dad slammed the front door so hard the frame cracked. His face was pale, his shirt half-buttoned. "They're coming," he barked at Mom, who jumped up from the couch. "They want their money today, do you hear me? Today." Mom's face twisted. "Then make her sign. What's the point of keeping her alive if she won't do the one thing we need?" Their voices carried through the thin walls, every word feeding my resolve. I sat in my room, one hand on my belly, the other gripping the notebook filled with their sins. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Because I knew that when the crash finally came, and it would come, I wouldn't be the one left broken. I would be the one holding the match. The crash came 3 nights later. I heard it before I saw it. Cars pulling into the driveway, tires screeching against gravel, doors slamming shut one after another. Voices rose outside, sharp and angry, not the kind of voices that asked politely. I sat on the edge of my bed, my belly heavy, my notebook clutched to my chest. My baby kicked as though sensing the storm. Dad stomped through the hallway, his voice booming. "Stay in your room! Don't you dare come out!" He slammed my door shut, but he forgot something. My window was cracked open. I could hear everything. Rough fists pounded on the front door. Then it flung open. A man's voice thundered, "Where's the money, Frank? You've been lying for months. Tonight we don't leave without it." Dad's tone was desperate but still dripping with arrogance. "You'll get it. I told you my daughter's signing the loan any day now. She's just stalling." The man laughed bitterly. "We're not in the mood for fairy tales. We know she hasn't signed. We know she refuses. That means you're out of tricks." I pressed closer to the wall, my breath steady, because this was the moment I had been waiting for. Every receipt I'd hidden, every debt notice I'd copied, every whisper I had collected, it was all leading to this collapse. Mom tried to jump in, her voice shrill. "She's useless. We raised trash, that's what she is. She owes us. She should suffer for what she's doing to us." The men roared with laughter. "You think we care about your little family feud? This isn't about her. This is about you, and your time is up." I heard the table crash, chairs scrape against the floor, my father's curses choking in his throat. He had always been the predator, towering over me with fists and threats, but now he was cornered prey. And I made sure of it. Because 2 days earlier, I had mailed copies of his debts, not just to these collectors, but to the people he owed favors to at work, the neighbors he bragged to about his business, even the pastor he pretended to impress every Sunday. His carefully built mask was crumbling everywhere at once, and I was the one pulling every thread loose. I finally opened my bedroom door and stepped out. My legs trembled, but I kept my head high. The room fell silent for a beat when they saw me. "You?" one of the men muttered, eyebrows raised. Dad snarled, "Get back in your room." His face was red, veins bulging. But I didn't move. I looked straight at him. "You said I had no choices, that I was trash, that this baby wouldn't save me." My voice didn't shake. "But you were wrong, because the only person with no choices left is you." The collectors turned toward me, curious. I placed my notebook on the table, sliding it across. Every debt, every lie, every trick. He thought he could hide it, but I wrote it all down. Names, numbers, dates. You want the truth? It's right there. Dad lunged, but one of the men shoved him back hard into the wall. "So she's the one who knows everything, huh? Guess you're not in control of your own house after all." Mom shrieked, "Don't listen to her. She's a bitter little—" "Enough," the man snapped. "We don't need your circus act. We need what's owed." And in that moment, I watched my parents' power dissolve. The two people who spent their lives laughing at my pain, who called me trash, who thought breaking me would keep me silent. They stood there pale and trembling, stripped bare in front of strangers who saw them for what they really were, liars, cowards, frauds. Dad begged, actually begged, for the first time in his life. "Give me more time, please. I'll make her sign." But I spoke louder than him. "I'll never sign, not for you, not for her, never." The room froze. The collectors exchanged glances, then one of them smirked. "Then I guess we'll be collecting in other ways." I didn't stay to watch. I didn't need to. I walked out the front door into the night air, my baby kicking gently inside me, the sound of their empire collapsing behind me like a house of cards in flames. For the first time, I didn't feel like a prisoner. I felt free, because revenge wasn't just about breaking them. It was about choosing myself, about proving that even when they kicked me down, even when they tried to steal my voice, I could still stand taller than they ever imagined. And I knew as I stepped away from the house I once called home that they would never laugh at me again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.